And now, from approximately coast to coast, it's the Bob and Ray Public Radio Show.
Thank you.
Hey, gosh, Paul, good to see you playing those old numbers again.
We are welcoming Paul Taubman at the organs. Actually, it's the Paul Taubman Trio minus 2.
Many of you listeners have plans for the coming week that can only be carried out if there's good weather in your area. And that's why we've received numerous letters asking us to interrupt the entertainment portion of our show long enough to bring you a complete nationwide forecast.
Well, actually, we haven't received too many letters asking us to interrupt the entertainment portion of our show to do that. As I recall, we've had more letters asking us to put some entertainment into the show.
Well, I don't have an actual mail count, but my point here is that we've gotten some budget money to set up a Bob and Ray meteorology department. So we're going to start presenting national weather forecasts, whether anybody wants to hear them or not.
Well, that's a more straightforward explanation.
Sure.
We do have a new forecasting department on the top floor of our building. We've also used part of the appropriation to hire 2 new expert meteorologists, Walton Krager and Charles L. Bernbach. You probably heard of them.
So, as a public service to those of whose livelihoods may depend on an accurate national forecast, we switch now to Walton Krager and Charles L. Bernbach at the weather desk.
Well, thank you, Bob and Ray. This is Charles L. Bernbach speaking from Weather Central. I'm standing in front of our large computerized weather map, and at the moment, it shows a lot of red streaky lines all through the Pacific Northwest.
Hey, Charlie, do you want your eggs hard or medium?
Medium is fine.
I got you. Hey, here you go. I never realized those microwave ovens made so much noise.
I noticed turning it off caused those streaky lines on our weather map to move south into California. And then, as you listeners farther inland already know, the streaky lines changed to little black dots over the Rocky Mountain area.
Excuse me, Charlie, but don't you think we should refer to those streaky lines as rain and the little black dots as snow?
Well, I'm not sure what they are, Walt. We learned to put weather symbols on the map by hand when I went to meteorology school, and I never saw anything like the stuff this computer makes. Our streaks always slanted to the right, and these slant to the left.
Well, I think they mean rain, no matter which way they slant. I might add that they're now moving across our weather map toward the state that's the third one in from the west coast, and the second one up from the bottom there.
Well, I don't think it would hurt to mention the state by name, Walt. That's Utah, where they're now having streaky lines.
No, I seem to recall that Utah is pointy on the bottom, and this state is square. Well, I think that means you listeners in Wyoming can look for some rough weather tonight, either there or New Mexico.
Well, I don't see how a guy could get out of meteorology school without knowing the states on the map, Walt. We learned those when I was just a sophomore, and that one's Utah.
Well, I don't know why you make such a big deal out of it. Our teacher told us that nobody lives in those states out there anyway. We just memorized the eastern ones. Speaking of that, I see a big letter H over Vermont and New Hampshire. That means it'll be hot up there tomorrow.
You know, you're really beginning to make a complete fool of yourself, Walt. That H doesn't stand for hot. It's some kind of thing in the air. I remember they talked about it in Meteorology 104.
Well, that's just about as vague as everything else you've been saying. What do you think this big L down here at the bottom stands for, then?
That's the abbreviation for Louisiana. Runs across there.
Oh, I guess that's right. Well, they're sure having a lot of rain down there.
Assuming that's what the slanty lines mean when they point the wrong way like that.
Well, I'm sure they mean rain pointing either way. And it's even worse down here in the ocean, where this swirly thing is going around.
I believe the computer just makes it look like it's going around, Walt. That thing down there is Puerto Rico.
Well, we can forget about it then because we don't give the forecast for Puerto Rico.
Right. So here in the continental United States, neighbors, you can look for slanty lines in California and Louisiana tonight, changing to black dots in Utah.
Or New Mexico, if that's what it turns out to be. Also a big H over New England, upstate Ohio.
That's upstate New York.
Yeah, at least a 50% change there, too. Well, this is meteorologist Walton Krager, speaking for Charles L. Burnback and myself, and sending it back downstairs to Bob and Ray. Say, here's great news of a wonderful offer from the makers of Einbinder flypaper. Now you can receive a beautiful lapel pin that's a lifelike replica of a giant horsefly at no cost whatsoever.
Just mail in the proof of purchase sticker from 3 large-size strips of Einbinder flypaper, and the pin is yours, absolutely free. Now, the horsefly pin makes an ideal accessory for either ladies or gentlemen, with all 8 of its legs painted in gleaming black enamel. The wings are a lovely transparent mother of pearl. There's a simulated emerald set right in the insect's hindquarters that's sure to gain compliments from all your friends.
Now, you'll want to have one of these gorgeous pins for yourself and several more to give as gifts for almost any occasion. So stock up on Einbinder flypaper now and send in your proof of purchase stickers. But be sure you insist on genuine Einbinder, the flypaper you've gradually grown to trust over the course of 3 generations.
Right now, we'd like to welcome you to a Bob and Ray Public Service feature, Widen Your Horizons, the educational portion of our show where we help guide you to a fuller, happier life through the acquiring of new knowledge and skills. Today, our guest lecturer is Mr. Dalton Vingus of the Toledo Timepiece Company. Mr. Vingus, I see you have everything ready there for your demonstration of how to set an alarm clock.
That's right, Mr. Elliott. Now, this is really a vital skill to acquire in our modern society, where getting up on time has become increasingly important.
You mean to get to work, things like that?
Exactly. Our figures show that almost everybody who has a job is supposed to get there at the proper time. But 93% are usually late, even though many of them have an alarm clock in the home. So that can only mean that very few know what those buttons and keys on the back of the clock are supposed to be used for.
You know, that's kind of amazing, especially in the case of a clock like the one you brought along today. It has 2 big bells on top, and you'd think people would assume those bells have some purpose.
Well, our studies indicate that most buyers expect little figures to crawl out from under those bells to forecast the weather. And, of course, while they're waiting for that to happen, they oversleep.
And then the need for your helpful instruction is even more urgent than I thought. Go ahead and continue, will you?
Very well. Now, first, it should be noted that one side of the clock has numbers and hands on it, while the other side has keys and buttons. We're now dealing chiefly with the key and button side, which is called the back of the clock.
And it's important to remember that technical name for it, I guess, huh?
Well, not really, no. You can call it whatever you want. But you do have to remember that the keys must be wound to make the clock run like this.
Mr. Vingus is turning first one key and then the other to put the mechanism into operation. Now he's turning both of them to his left, which would be counterclockwise.
Yes, and that's important to remember. Turning to the right, you see, just unscrews the keys and makes them fall out of the floor.
Well, now the winding is complete, and I'm sure you can all hear that loud, annoying tick. Is that designed to keep people awake all night so they'll be sure to get up on time, Mr. Vingus?
Yes, but we strongly advise setting the alarm, too, just to make the entire mechanism completely fail-safe.
Okay, now, suppose you'll be demonstrating how to set the alarm next, huh?
Next, I'll demonstrate how to set the alarm, Bob. Now, that's done by turning this button marked Alarm set. And purely for demonstration purposes, we'll set it for 8 o'clock.
You mean we have to wait around until then to see how this works?
No, we can simulate that. But before I do, I want to stress the importance of pulling out this little knob marked Alarm Pull. Now, many people with a good knowledge of alarm clocking let it all go to waste by forgetting to do this one thing.
Nothing happens if you don't pull the alarm pull, eh?
Well, it may give a small click, but not loud enough to wake you up. So I'm seeing that the alarm pull is carefully pulled, and then I'll turn the hands around to simulate 8 o'clock here.
8 o'clock.
And we have contact at precisely 0800.
Well, that would certainly wake a person, all right. You can shut it off now if you want.
Well, I'm trying to. This isn't like mine at home. There should be a button here someplace marked alarm off or alarm push. I don't seem to find it.
Well, then take it out in the hall and hunt for it, will you?
Yeah, maybe I'd better. I guess I shouldn't have brought a model I'm not thoroughly familiar with.
Well, never mind that now. If you just leave, go out by that door.
Okay, I'm terribly sorry about this.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye. Well, he did get it to ring, and that's the important thing, I guess. And you join us next time when, once again, we'll guide you to a fuller, happier life on our public service feature, Widen Your Horizons. Time now for another visit to Garish Summit and its endless story of intrigue among the socially prominent. There in stately splendor, far removed from the squalid village below, they fight their petty battles over power and money. As our action begins, the hollyhocks at the rear of the Murchfield estate are being carefully pruned by Lloyd the gardener. Suddenly, a young boy enters the grounds over the barbed wire fence nearby. Lloyd puts down his pruning shears and speaks.
Hey, you better climb right back over that fence, young fella. Miss Agatha turns the dogs loose on trespassers around here.
She wouldn't do that to her own flesh and blood. You see, I'm Spanky Murchfield, the grandson she doesn't know she has because my father is her son, Caldwell, who doesn't know I exist. It all happened by a previous marriage.
I didn't know Miss Agatha had been married more than once.
She hasn't. I'm talking about Caldwell's previous marriage. Incidentally, I assume you're Lloyd the gardener.
That's right. How'd you know my name?
Oh, I've done research on all the hired help. You see, I plan to inherit the Murchfield billions by replacing Miss Agatha's authentic will with this forgery. But I need a trusted person on the inside to make the switch. How about it?
Oh, I couldn't. I've been mowing and edging for the Murchfields since 1938. I'm like one of the family. And when I retire, Miss Agatha's going to charge me very little rent to live in that old shed behind the barn.
Well, don't bore me with sentiment, pal. I'm proposing a big deal here. I've saved up almost $26, and it's all yours just for putting this phony will in the safe.
Well, that does sound like easy money. Come to think of it, I never did like Miss Agatha's two sons, Rodney and Caldwell. I wonder what that boorish lout Caldwell would be doing right now if he knew about your scheme to cut him out of the old lady's will.
I can't believe what you're saying, Master Caldwell. I've been Miss Agatha's trusted butler for 32 years, and now you're suggesting that I break the servant's code of honor.
Don't be such a Boy Scout, Wilfred. I just got a tip that Lloyd the gardener plans to substitute a fake will for Mother's real one. So all I want you to do is replace that forgery with this one, naming me as the sole heir.
No, it just wouldn't be cricket for one who's made a career of domestic service. And besides, if I may say so, sir, you've struck me as something of a creep ever since you came here claiming to be Miss Agatha's long-lost son.
Well, you better watch your mouth, or you could talk yourself out of some big money. I borrowed $50,000 from petty cash at the office today. And it's all yours if you can slip this bogus will into Mother's safe.
Yeah, I say that is a most generous offer, sir, and of course it would serve the purpose of cutting off your arrogant brother Rodney without a cent. I wonder what that wretched blighter would be doing right now if he had any notion of your clever scheme.
Gee, I don't know, Rodney. Will your brother really get all the dough if I can't slip this fake will into the old lady's safe?
Yes, Fingers. I'm certain that he's bribed Wilford the butler to replace the forgery that my nephew Spanky has bribed Lloyd the gardener to put in the safe, replacing the original. So, of course, the next step that must be taken is obvious.
Maybe. I'd have to think about it. But I'm not too long on brains.
Well, never mind. Money is what does the talking in cases like these. How much do you want to open Mother's safe in the library tonight and substitute this fake will for the other one?
Well, let me figure. I'd have to buy new wire clippers to get through the fence. Then figure $3 worth of meat to keep the guard dogs quiet. A skeleton key for the front door. All told, I guess $9,800,000 would do it.
Well, I was hoping for an estimate that would run a little lower.
Well, look at it this way. If the job's done right, you'll get a 50-room mansion, the family business, and about $3 billion in cash. But if the job's done wrong, you'll get 10 years in the slammer. So just ask yourself, is it worth pinching pennies?
No, I suppose not. Of course, it may take most of the afternoon for me to embezzle $9,800,000 from the firm, but somehow cutting my evil brother off from the family fortune makes it all worthwhile.
Will Rodney regret hiring a sleazy crook who doesn't even have references from a previous employer? Can Lloyd the gardener succeed in cracking a safe with no tools except his pruning shears? And how can Spanky explain his absence from school? Perhaps we'll learn more next time when we hear the family attorney say,
Her real will was the one I kept at my office. It leaves everything to her pussycat.
That's next week when we resume our story of petty bickering on Derek Summit.
You know, there is a difference in ball bearings, and Coogan's makes that difference. Coogan's scientifically makes sure that each and every one of their ball bearings is not only round, not only smooth, but that it's pitless. They come in 3 handy sizes, 10, 25, and 50-cent packages, and you'll find them wherever ball bearings are sold. They make wonderful gifts for Father's Day, too. Remember the name Coogan's. Ballbearings. Coogan's. I think we have just time for a gentleman who's come to present a reply to a recent Bob and Ray editorial. We're always happy to grant equal time to qualified persons who disagree with us. In our editorial, we encouraged all of you viewers to get your flu shots early this winter. And now, speaking out against that editorial and in favor of influenza...
Hey, wait a minute. Hold it, pal. I never said I was in favor of influenza.
Well...
or any other disease in particular. I just happen to be the president of the East Coast Geranium Growers Association. So I'm sure you can appreciate my position.
Well, not really. We hadn't expected any opposition to the idea of people getting flu shots. I can't see why you're against them just because you grow geraniums.
Well, that's all contained in my statement of rebuttal here. My fellow Americans, distinguished geranium
Well,
growers...
excuse me just a minute. Before you get into your statement, I need to finish introducing you and to present our disclaimer on anything you may say, okay?
Wait a minute. You want to turn the public against me before I've even opened my mouth?
No. It's just our legal department requires me to identify you as Mr. Wallace Pernoy of the East Coast Geranium Growers Association. Then I'm supposed to throw in a little comment that the opinions expressed by you are strictly your own and do not necessarily represent the views of this station or members of their families. Okay, you can go right ahead.
Well, gee, now that you've tried to turn the public against me before I say anything, I can see that I've got an uphill battle on my hands here.
No, not at all. You just go ahead.
I'm sure I can depend upon the spirit of fairness that's inherent in our American system to have my position heard without prejudice.
You certainly can. Just what is your position?
Well, I'd like to see as many Americans as possible get sick with the flu this winter.
I see.
No, I don't think you do. I'm not I'm not taking this stand out of any personal desire to see people suffer.
Well, go ahead.
It's just that taking bouquets of flowers to those who are sick is a national tradition, and geranium growers really look forward to each other's, good luck in the flu epidemic. It's a big selling season.
But just to make a fast buck, you actually hope people get sick. Is that what it turns out to be?
Well, I think I would have phrased it a little differently. However, I guess that's about what it boils down to. See, you got to realize that people who catch the flu are not the only ones who have it bad. See, being a geranium grower is no bet of another flower either.
No bed of roses, you mean?
I never mentioned the competition by name. We don't want people to be able to think of anything but geraniums when they walk into a flower shop to buy a bouquet for a sick friend.
I didn't realize that many people even considered buying bouquets of geraniums.
Well, they don't unless there's a real bad flu epidemic going on. And the florists are sold out of everything else.
I see.
Not that geraniums look too bad, but they really smell terrible. They're especially unpopular among sick people who may have a tendency to get nauseous anyway.
Right.
So it really takes a major outbreak of some illness for geranium growers to unload their supply of flowers.
I understand.
And we look upon the annual winter flu epidemic as our best bet.
Which is why you're here today, speaking out in opposition to our editorial favoring flu shots.
Exactly. Geranium growers are entitled to earn a livelihood without interference from busybodies like you. And so, in closing, I urge every loyal American to neglect getting a flu shot this winter.
Well, thank you, Mr. Pernoy.
Let's all pull together, get sick together, to make this the biggest year for geranium sales in our country's history. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, for this session, that's about it, leaving us just time for some well-deserved credits as follows.
The Bob and Ray Public Radio Show was produced for the Radio Foundation by Larry Josephson, who still thinks Viva Las Vegas is one of the best films ever made.
Associate producer is Marjorie Van Halderen, who oddly enough knows two persons named Zubin, neither of whom cares much about music.
Music here was provided by the warrior of the Wurlitzer, Paul Taubman. Our technical director was Malcolm Addy.
Our sound effects man was Al Schaefer, doing his favorite thing, making noise.
Our engineers were Mike Moran, Joe Lopes, and our production assistant, Tony Fitzpatrick.
Now, the funding, in part, was from the National Endowment for the Arts
and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting
through NPR's Satellite Program Development Fund.
So now, until the next one, this is Ray Goulding reminding you to write if you get work.
Bob Elliott reminding you to hang by your thumbs.
For a free picture of Bob and Ray, send a stamped, self-addressed envelope to Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000, GPO, New York 10116. That's Bob and Ray Picture, Box 5000, GPO, New York 10116. This program was independently produced by the Radio Foundation.